Well, hello to you all, wherever you're dialing in or listening to this live. My name is Natalie Ashdown from the Open Door Coaching Group, and welcome to the Coaching Cafe. So today we're discussing resisting the temptation to fix things, fix the problems and challenges of our hybrid world. And I welcome to our webinar, as always, our wonderful coaches, Paula Jones-Hunt, our resident HR specialist, and welcome to you, Bridget Calvert, our
Hello.
Learning and Development Manager. Great to see you both. Thanks for joining us.
Always happy to be here.
Fantastic. Well, before we begin, as always, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners and the custodians of the lands on which we're all meeting today, or perhaps you're listening to this on the podcast. And we acknowledge their continuing connection to the land, waters and communities of Australia, and also our Indigenous friends from all around the world as well. So we pay our respects to you, to them, to their elders, past, present and emerging. So I'm looking forward to this topic today to talk with you, Paula and Bridget, and of course everyone that's joined us on the line here as well. We're going to be talking about that temptation to fix things. And the last few weeks we've been talking about the hybrid world and what does coaching look like in our hybrid workplaces now. So I want to talk also and get your ideas about what that looks like from a coaching conversations point of view. And for those of you that are new to the Coaching Cafe, as I always say, welcome. We are all about creating a community, sharing our learned experiences and having thought-provoking conversations. We also offer free ICF-CCEs at the end of the session. And for all our regulars, welcome back. You know that this is a highlight of our Friday, and it's a lovely way to finish the week, focusing on our personal and professional development together as an alumni. So welcome back, everybody. If you'd like to interact with us, please feel free to pop a message into the chat box and we'll be picking up your comments and we'll be picking up your thoughts and your great coaching questions as we go along into the chat box. So here we go, let's have a discussion. So let's talk about the hybrid workplace. And what we have been noticing is more and more emphasis on the need to get hybrid right, because that is the way that we're doing things now. And there's been a lot of research out there in the marketplace. We particularly like to go to gallup.com if you're looking for the research. And the reason for that is because it's relevant and it's the latest research. And also they have, for me, I like the very big sample sizes as well and the range of organizations that they engage. So Gallup's recent research, you can see it there at gallup.com. If you look at advantages and challenges of the hybrid work, they talk about hybrid workplaces improving work-life balance. It's great to hear. People are having more efficient use of their time. They've got more control over their work hours and their location. And I'm sure Bridget and Paula, you'd be both happy to hear that the hybrid working is actually mitigating to some extent burnout and enabling higher productivity as well. So you've both been coaching. Have you been noticing these trends in the coaching you've been doing as well?
Absolutely. I think it's just to have that quality time, so the quality focus on work and letting go of those things that potentially, whether it's travel or driving or traffic or what have you, that potentially add to feeling tired, those sorts of things. So yeah, having that quality time and focus, I think is allowing for that higher productivity.
Yeah,
I can definitely relate to, I beg your pardon, Paula, go on.
I was just going to say, I absolutely agree. And it's funny, in the HR space, we've been talking about flexibility in the workplace, work-life balance for a very, very long time. And it was really hard to get flexibility and workplace balance, work-life balance in, because people couldn't actually see how it would work. And COVID really just pushed that forward and said, well, we're going to have to figure out and see how it works because we don't have any other choice. And so now it's sort of about looking at it and refining it and figuring out how that all works together.
Yes, I agree. Absolutely. I've just taken on a new group of clients actually for executive coaching, and we are located in Melbourne, as many of you may know, and the client is located in Melbourne as well. But their preference from an efficiency point of time is to coach over Zoom or coach over Teams. So even though we could catch up, and we will catch up along the line as well, there's still this preference at the moment because of the efficiency to log on, do your coaching, and then log off again, and cuts down on travel time, cuts down on parking and all those kind of things as well. So it's interesting how things are evolving at the moment, more and more. And of course, it's not new. As we know, we were always coaching over Zoom and coaching over Teams before the hybrid working place came into place as well. So the challenges that the research is sharing is having the right tools to be effective at work, people feeling less connected to the organization's culture, impaired collaboration and relationships, and disrupted workplaces. And as I was reflecting on this, I was starting to think about managers in our workplace, and perhaps even leaders in our workplace who want to start trying to fix this situation. They want to put in options and solutions to fix these challenges that are being faced. But I was reflecting that rather than trying to fix it, take it all on and fix it, of course, it will be no surprise to everybody on the line that we want to take a coaching approach, and a coaching approach will be just better. So I'm really keen for people to jump in, tell us what they're thinking. And I know that a lot of you have seen this above the line and below the line. What I was reflecting on, and what the team's been reflecting on, is it's actually all of our responsibility. We can all be accountable for how we create the workplaces that we want. Now, I know there's a lot of the Open Door Coaching alumni that are listening to this, and you will have seen this in your Certificate 4 in Workplace and Business Coaching, and of course in our Leader as Coach program, so it's not new. But I suppose what I'm thinking about, and Paula and Bridget, I'd get your thinking on this as well, please. It's great to take these old tools and to bring them back to the forefront. And when we've got challenges such as hybrid that we've just talked about, really, how do we focus on being above the line rather than dropping below the line? And I think this is the antidote for managers just trying to fix it, take it all on myself and fix it. So what are you thinking about that?
Yeah, I think it's really important, especially in that hybrid environment where people are in their own spaces as well, that it really supports that idea of asking you a question about what's going to work for you in your environment versus me telling you or trying to fix a potential challenge when I'm on this side of the screen versus perhaps you being on that side of the screen. So taking that opportunity to ask a question with genuine curiosity about what's right for that person in that space that's going to bring about their best and offer their best in terms of their workplace, I think is really important. So yes, asking really valuable questions that are above the line to be able to look for what's possible. What options do we have? How can you approach this? What are the solutions? Those sorts of questions, I think. So you get better buy-in from that person on the other side, and they can take responsibility for what works best, and people can collaborate and come together and make sure that works.
Yeah, I agree with you, and we will take a look at what kind of great questions can we start to ask as well, and what a thrill to have all the experienced coaches on the line to help us generate those. I think there's something about not taking it all on as managers, as the bosses. We want to have this shared responsibility, shared accountability. What options, what solutions do we have to address these challenges, and do that in a collaborative manner, in an above the line manner, rather than taking it all on, trying to fix it. I feel like we talk about below the line being excuses, frustration, blame, problems, negativity. And quite often when that's happening in the workplace, it's the manager's job, or they feel like it's their job to fix it, fix the frustrations, fix the negativity. But really what we're talking about here is a shared responsibility, a shared accountability, And that's the coaching way. Paula, I can see you nodding your head there.
Yeah, I think it's really easy when people get when there's a lot going on and they're busy, that it's easy. It feels like it's easier to solve the problem yourself than to ask questions and really bring people into it. But as we all know, it takes more time if you're going to fix the problem, because you create more problems because you don't know that you're fixing the right problem. And so I think it's that old adage of, you can fix the problem yourself, or you can bring people along and you can solve a problem innovatively, and really that you're right in that other person having responsibility and accountability for it. And over the long run, it will save you heaps more time, but it's sort of like resisting that temptation to just jump in and do it.
Yes, I agree. And when it comes to above the line, below the line, you see there, for those people that can see the slide, but if you are listening to this on one of your favorite podcasts, thank you. You might be out and about, and it's great that you're listening to us. We've got alongside here, above the line and below the line, the word choice. So I think our role as managers and leaders is to help people make choices, open up the options for people to make choice, to get above the line, to find those options and solutions. They have a choice if they just want to be negative and frustrated and blame, etc. So we're thinking about how do we actually open up the choices for people. And we've got some great comments coming in here. Ian, thanks for jumping in. It's great to have your experience. He says, I have a new mantra for my coaching approach to many situations, which is ATP, standing for ask the person. So what a great simple thing to think about. Let's ask the person. Jody, thank you for bringing your experience to the line as well. Saying it's even more important for a leader to ask questions because there's so much more they can't see in the person's work environment. Yes, absolutely. You can see just the square, can't you? You can only see the square, the top half of me, or maybe not all of me, even the whole of me, because I don't have my video on. So it's so much more important for coaching and for leaders to be asking questions because we can't see what's actually going on in the environment. Now, this has been going on for quite some time, hasn't it? But now that hybrid is the way we're going to be moving forward, we need to be doing more and more of that coaching. That's been the theme of the past few weeks as well. Kate, thank you for jumping in. You ask, do you have any advice for those not wanting to come into the office at all? Thank you for sharing that. Please feel free, everyone, to jump in and give your commentary on this. So do you have any advice for those not wanting to come into the office at all? We want to encourage flexible working as much as possible, but also really see the benefit in face-to-face collaboration and team building. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Bridget, I've got lots of thoughts coming to my mind straight away, but what about yourselves?
For me, I think the idea of, what is my intention for you? For what purpose would I need you to come into the office or want you to come into the office? What is my positive intention for you? What will it give you? What will it bring to you and also to the team and the people around you? So rather than just making it about a blanket, well, that's what you should do, come into the office sometimes, for what purpose? What's the value that we're suggesting is important for you to be there for your benefit as well as the team?
I love that question, Bridget, and I want to also offer and kind of extend that question to say, it's not just me as the manager or the leader coming up with the value. I want to extend that question to the people I'm coaching, saying, well, what do you see the value in being? Now, of course, they can do the old skeptical, negativity. Well, there is no value. No, there's no value. But when we start to talk about it and we have the conversation around the value in terms of face-to-face collaboration and team building, I think that's very important.
Yeah.
The other thing that comes up for me is to encourage that flexible working. The Air Force people on the line will know about left and right of arc. So sometimes managers and leaders have to actually say, you're required. this is the parameters that we're working with. So you are required, and there's a lot of this going on at the moment with different organizations we're coaching. They are just saying the new workplace is 2 days a week or 3 days a week. You are required in the office at that time. Now let's work out what that looks like, how that works for you, etc., etc. So you might have to set the parameters that this is what's required, and then we work out what does that actually mean and what does that look like so we're productive, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So there's a couple of interesting comments here too. Jody, thank you for jumping in. She says, wondering whether is fixing it a below the line behavior, because it's often a reflex or a reaction rather than being a response. So that's an interesting thing to think about. And then we've got Ian jumping in again. Work is not just work. We want to share, we want others to share their skills beyond just the actual work or task. So yes, there's an extremely important role in the collaboration, in the knowledge sharing, in the mentoring, in the coaching that we get when we're together. I've asked folks to talk about their hobbies at morning tea, reaching out to their passions, finding out more about them as a human being. And it's very hard to do that, or you have to make extra effort to do that over Zoom. Yeah. Fantastic. Great, Kate. We're great. We're glad that that resonates with you. So 2 things, as we mentioned there, sometimes the parameters are actually set, and then it is about how are we going to make that work for everyone. Remembering it's the individual's needs, the team needs, and the organization's needs that we're trying to address here as well. So I'm glad that that actually helped. Incidental conversations that surface surprising skills and insights, as well as building group relationships. So thank you, Jody, for adding that in again. So I've been thinking about this, about how we take these challenges, and it will be no surprise to the coaches on the line, those of you that have joined us in our Certificate 4 program and on our Leader as Coach program, it will be no surprise that we want to go for reframing. And I know there's a lot of great reframers here on the line as well. And basically what that means is we're taking these challenges, and as Bridget mentioned in our opening, we are asking really great questions. And so I thought we might have a bit of fun together generating the questions that we could possibly ask, and I'll kick us off if that's all right. So if we look at the first challenge around having the right tools to be effective at work, so that's the challenge. I don't have the right tools to be effective at work. So the questions that we start to roll is, well, what are those right tools? When can we get those right tools? Who has the right tools? So we're running our who. For those of you that can't see the slides, we've got our who, what, when, where, and how questions. These are our reframe questions, and we're going to roll those questions against each of these challenge statements. So I also like things like, we're talking about being effective at work. What does that actually mean? What does that look like? What does that feel like? What is an effective day for you? Who has to be part of your workflow in order to be effective? How do we create that effectiveness, not just for you, but for the whole team? So off we go on a reframe journey. Go on, Bridge. I know you're busting to jump in.
I think, gee, you've covered so many there, Nat. I can't keep up with that. So, yeah, absolutely. How do you demonstrate effectiveness? So what does that look like when you're being effective, and who can support you to make sure that you're bringing the best effectiveness of yourself? And that brings in strengths, of course, too. What strengths do you have that allow you to be most effective?
Yes, Ian's jumped in. What tools are you missing now that you don't have? So what are you missing is a beautiful question, a beautiful reframe question that says, what tools don't you have? And I love where questions. Those of you that have worked with me, I love where. So where can we find those right tools? And also, where is it that we need to be effective? So where are we not being effective, that if we did something together as a team, that would make us more effective? So rather than just going, oh, nothing's effective, I'm not effective when I'm at work. So we'll get those below the line comments. What we're really aiming for is, well, you're saying that you're not effective when you come into the office. my first question would be, what does effective mean to you? Now, effective doesn't necessarily mean by myself. Those people that know me, you know that I'm actually very effective when I'm working together with you, Paula, or Bridget, or particularly on tasks that I'm not particularly energized by. I need you to hold my hand and collaborate, and I'm much more effective when we're working together rather than me trying to bang on with a boring old task myself. So it's good to ask these questions.
Yeah.
What else have we got here? So let's just do a little bit of a reframing storm on that. People are feeling less connected to the organization's culture. That's the challenge. Now, interestingly, research says, let's not just assume that people coming into the office means we've got our culture back. And I like that, actually, because culture is not just jam everyone back into the office. It's so much more than that. So let's have a bit of a reframe storm on those ones.
Yeah. So how do you connect to the organization's culture, and what do you bring that contributes to the organization's culture? What can you do and who can you be that demonstrates that organization's culture?
Oh, can you see that these are not just like I was just brainstorming those questions on the previous challenge, but now all of a sudden the questions you're asking, Bridget, it's making us stop, it's making us breathe, it's making us think. Like Marissa has offered, what does culture mean to you? I mean, I can't just off the top of my head, I've got to stop and think about that. Ignacio, you've said, what would connection look like for you? Yeah. So what would connection look like for you? How would connection work for you? Jody says, what are the parts of our culture that support you and your work?
Yeah.
How does that feel for you when you feel connected, says Ian? What would a reconnect look like or feel like for you? I can feel myself slowing down here. And these are, we're going to have to stop the, if you're listening to this in the podcast, and as I always do, I like to re-listen to the podcast and I stop and I write down all the questions. So we're slowing down now with these kind of questions. They're very powerful.
And I think too, if you think of stop, start, more, less, you hear the word less connected. So immediately think, well, what would make you more connected to the organization's culture? What would you need to start doing, or what might you need to stop doing?
And Paula, I'm thinking with those kind of questions, people might use what we call, pardon the pun, but first line of defense. They might go, well, I don't know. I just think it's better to be at home. So you've seen a lot of that resistance. What kind of questions would you come back with, or how would you kind of approach that?
Yeah, and I think the key on this is a really big question, because culture is something that is everybody's responsibility. No one, HR doesn't determine culture. Everybody in the organization determine culture. So there's a bit in here about accountability. So I don't know. Okay, so what would a great culture look like for you? So it doesn't have to look like what do you need it? It's what does it look like for you? If you were working in a great culture, what do you think are some of the things that you would see or feel or hear? What would people be saying in a great workplace culture?
Absolutely.
Yes, and it is, as Ian says, the culture conversation, it's very deep. It's not a quick conversation. It's actually something that a coach would sit down and have a really in-depth conversation with people about, and managers who are coaching their people and leaders would do the same. So the other very interesting question that Marissa has offered is, when did you last feel connected to the culture at work? What a great question. What comes up for me actually is, I suspect that this disconnection to the culture may or may not have been happening before we had to do the whole work from home, COVID, global pandemic thing. So if people weren't connected to the culture before we had these challenges, then they're probably less connected now. So it's a very nice timeline question. When did you last feel? And I can hear some skeptical managers saying, oh, I haven't felt connected. What is culture anyway? I haven't felt connected for the last 20 years, you know? So it's all very well to say I'm not connected to the culture, but the when did you last feel? Beautiful question. Thank you for jumping in.
That's right. And also
I would
comment
also-
Anne's comment there too.
Mm.
So many people were employed during COVID, and so many have never experienced the culture of a workplace, and maybe it's fear that's keeping them away. That's what Anne says. Mm.
Yeah, I think you might be on the money there, Anne. Yeah.
I think also it's important to know that culture isn't a destination.
Mhm.
It's actually it's a journey, and it changes. It's actually a feel. So culture is a feel, and it moves. So it's also about, you know, you want to be, it's about how do you move towards more of what you want, as opposed to there's a spot you have to get to.
And I think culture is an experience, and we are all responsible for that experience that we have. So whilst we might stay away because we feel less connected to that organisation's culture, what if we were to contribute, or what if we were to engage and actually create this culture that we're wanting to experience?
I love that idea. How can you contribute to the experience?
Yeah.
What would that look like to create that experience that you want for work? And of course, we'll get the skeptical people that say, hey, I don't need it. You know, I'm doing my job. That's the only experience I need. I need to experience doing work and then logging off. But we want more and more. We want more. That's a bit of a choice decision point for me about, well, how can we create the experience for everyone, not just yourself?
That's exactly right. And even Nicole, many young people joining an organisation don't know how to behave in an organisation. Absolutely. Well, let's show them. Let's demonstrate. Let's be that what we want to be, and you know, get out there and support those young people to understand what it looks like, feels like, sounds like, how to connect, and not only within the organisation, but then be able to permeate that throughout your entire life as well. You know, in terms of how to behave, that sort of organisational feel.
Yes, well, we've definitely lit up the chat with this conversation, and that's why I love being able to bring back. Let's bring back the tools. Let's take these challenges, and it's wonderful to have everyone's input, because I think there's so much more that we can do from a coaching point of view to address these challenges, and bringing back our favorite tools that we use in everyday conversations. This is not new for coaches. We're doing it all the time. But I get this feeling about, I don't know, ramping it up, or as Ian has said, sit down and actually have the deeper conversations, using the reframe, using the above the line approach. Let's see what that looks and feels like as well.
Yeah.
And I think the important thing for managers is that when you have these conversations is that you aren't fixing it. So it's not about saying, oh, well, now that you've given me this information, I'll take it away and fix the problem, because culture you can't fix in that way. So being really honest with people and as a manager and building that trust around, it's really great that we're having this conversation. Let's keep this conversation moving, because it's something we need to come back to, as opposed to, thanks, I'll take it and I'll do something about it. It continues that conversation.
I think that's an excellent point. Thank you, Paula. And a really nice way to finish our conversation today as well, in that we're not just trying to fix things, and it's not just something, as you say, we have that conversation and then the manager takes it on, because what often happens is you hear people say, well, I gave you the feedback and then nothing happened. So we are talking about that collaborative approach, where we have joint responsibility, we're jointly accountable. People saying, oh, that's not my problem, I just do my job. Well, actually, it is within all of our power, I suppose, and within all of our choices to make a difference in this area. So that's really important to remember. And Stephen, you've jumped in here just at the end. Thank you. And you've said it's extremely difficult to create a culture using a hybrid engagement. So we really need people in the room to do that. Yeah, I agree, to have more discussions. Steve, you said, how do we onboard new joiners so they feel part of a team when many team members are only available virtually? So this is important because the virtual world is not new. Organizations have been doing this for years and years and years with overseas postings and all sorts of things. So this is not new. I think what's new is the volume of people now exposed to the world. So that's a really good question, Steve, around how do we onboard new joiners? How do we make that possible so that they feel a part of the team? And there's work to be done for sure.
I think sorry, Natalie, I think there's a great question in there in asking people who have onboarded, over the past 2 years, what was missing? What would have helped them to have onboarded better? What could we improve that would make this experience better for you? I think there's a world of wisdom in the people you've already onboarded that could be extracted.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's capture these last comments as well, because they're very valuable. Ignacio, you've said the reframing cues can also be applied using the above the line and below the line triggers. So how does reconnecting to the culture help identify your responsibilities? What a great question. Carly, you've said technology is amazing at onboarding in a remote or a hybrid environment because you've got workflow tools. That's very true. So let's not, and I keep coming back to this is not new. We've got people have been dialing in and connecting with overseas colleagues for years and years and years. So yeah. Fantastic. Wonderful. Well, thank you. We're so great that the chat has lit up. And if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast, hopefully this has generated some thinking while you're out exercising or whatever you're doing. And let's take the time as great coaches to think about these challenges, but with that reframing above the line frame is where we're coming from. So many thanks to you all for joining in the conversation today. We are going to take a break for the next 2 weeks because of Easter and also because I'm heading off to the Australian Grand Prix. So I was going to podcast live from the Australian Formula One Grand Prix, but my team, recommended that I didn't do that. So we will take a couple of weeks break and we really look forward to you joining us once again. So thank you for your time, Bridge, Paula, everyone that's jumped in. It's been great to have you as part of the conversation today.
Wonderful. Thanks. It was great having the chat.
Thanks.